these are the skill sets which are in demand. We have spoken very briefly earlier. You're talking about people with the skill sets in robotic surgery. Hospitals require these skill sets: 3D printing, bioprinting, nanotechnology, AR/VR training, telemedicine, and mHealth. These are the skills which are going to help the professionals in future. And these are the, if you're the educational qualification by BTech, biomedical electronics, MTech, BPharm, MPharm, PharmD, along with the medical device, qualifications. You need to have a manufacturing skill sets, emerging AI, IoT programming. With the advent of now Gen AI, learning AI has become much easier if you take interest. Certifications like ISO 13485, ISO 14115, GMP, and with the strong regulatory knowledge, this is going to drive our skill ecosystem in India. So these are the key growth drivers in India. So government initiatives are game changing. The production link incentive PLI scheme provides the financial incentives for the domestic and manufacturing companies. They get cash back on incremental production. Make in India campaign is now, in fact, giving us the result with the increase in the reduction of the import dependence. There's 100% FDI now allowed in this sector, and the foreign companies can set up their plants. Manufacturing hub emergence. So there is a large number of manufacturing hubs are paying off now. Tamil Nadu, for example, has this Chennai, near Chennai, Karnataka with the Bangalore's R&D ecosystem. Andhra Pradesh, MedTech Park. Gujarat is becoming a large, manufacturing infrastructure. And now, in fact, Uttar Pradesh is catching up fast. UP is catching up fast with the new medical device parks in Greater Noida, which will be inaugurated, I think, by the Chief Minister in the next couple of months. And India offers the cost advantage. That fact will remain there. Today, the manufacturing costs are about 40% lower in comparison to the developed markets, but we offer good quality workforce. So this makes India a very attractive place for both consumption, but also the manufacturing hub for the exports from India to the other markets. So these are some of the strategic opportunities. So this is how the market is. Just sorry. So these are the key takeaways. Today, let's crystallize the key insight from the analysis. These analysis. First, the global market is 650 to 680 billion, heading towards a 1.1 billion at least. 1 billion in the 1 trillion in the 1 trillion with the T. USD by 2034. And this is the massive sustained growth, not a bubble. This is real, which is happening. The India's opportunity is starting from the 16 to 18 billion dollars USD, growing at about 9 to 12%. And I think if you see the AI developments, we are looking at about 12% growth definitely in the next few years. Double the global rate, reaching about 50 billion USD by 2030. So that's where the action is in the coming years. So a lot of you are thinking about as entrepreneurship or building alternative career options, might definitely look at the medical devices. The competitive landscape. So global market is, dominated by the US, some of the US and European companies. India is currently led by the subsidiaries of the global players, but opportunity definitely exists for the Indian sort of a champions coming out of India. Tail end dynamics. It's going to be a very interesting area for the tail end dynamics. So in addition to the AI, IoT, robotics, digital health scheme, digital health skills, you also require, people with the regulatory quality assurance, and the other related skills to run the business. The medical devices sit at the intersection today of the engineering, healthcare, and technology. These are the three most resilient sectors. So as we conclude my part of presentation, this sector represents exceptional growth opportunity for both globally and in India. Emerging technologies are shaping the marketing dynamics. And what was the science fiction about actually 10 years ago? Today it's happening. The way we are integrating the artificial intelligence with the medical devices and the diagnostic devices, it's no more, adventure. So you will see the global growth out of India. India is a huge. So you're looking at a sector which is absolutely at the strategically positioned. So with this, I take a pause and I will, we'll take the questions perhaps at the end because in the interest of the time, I will hand over the session to Dr. Ashish. And over to you, Dr. Ashish. I'll take a stop here then.
Yep. Thank you, Kamalji, and thanks everyone for being here on the Sunday afternoon. And I will today take you through some nuances of medical devices, and I will also bring in some discussions. So we will take the questions at the end in interest of the time. But if there are any questions, please feel free to share them on the chat or question answer module, whatever the organizers have enabled. So I'm going to cover in brief a lot of things because I am particularly covering some drops in the ocean. So my entire purpose is to make you aware of what all in the medical device we are currently speaking of. So Kamalji just said something that was a fiction a few years ago that has come to the reality, and this aligns with the thought that I always put that all great inventions have been a fiction of a time, which starts with the television and telephone and the mobile phone till what we are seeing today in the medical technology. With this, I'll cover the following agenda where we get through a few basics of medical device regulations and their clinical research. I'll very briefly go on the reasons why there are the talent gaps, and then I'll speak of the careers in medical device regulatory affairs and the clinical. So, if I speak of medical devices, this is an entirely broad, very different area of the science. It is a practical intersection between the technology and medicine, and therefore it requires a very specialized workforce. It requires someone who specializes in multiple things, not just in one. So, therefore, the definition of medical device also could not be fixed for a long time, and eventually GHTF, the Global Harmonization Task Force, gave an all-inclusive definition. They said any instrument, apparatus, appliance, software, implement, reagent, material, or any other article which is intended by the manufacturer to be alone or in combination for human beings or more of the following specific purposes. This is for more of the following specific purposes: diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, prediction, prognosis, treatment, or elevation of a disease, or these all and for an injury or a disability. So, disease, injury, disability, or an investigation, replacement,
Right.
modification
Sorry, Dr. Ashish,
of
1
anatomy.
minute. Just, are you presenting anything?
Yes, I
I
am.
think we can't see. We see only your screen, your file screen. Actually, I can't see PPT.
Okay, I'm so sorry for
No,
that.
it's okay. That's all right.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No.
Okay, so sorry. So I'll just go through that. So I spoke about instrument, apparatus, appliance, software, reagent, material, or any other article which can be used alone or in combination as intended by the manufacturer for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, prediction, prognosis, treatment, or alleviation of a disease, injury, or disability, or compensation of an injury, or which can be used for diagnostic purpose, investigation, replacement or modification of anatomy or physiology, or a pathological process or a state, which provides information either by direct being on the body or by in vitro examination, and which doesn't achieve its primary principle intended by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic mean. So this is a theoretical definition which was supposed to be a legal and all-inclusive definition. But if I want to go by a simple definition, is any physical device or a software that has a medical purpose, which is a treatment or diagnosis, and does not act through a biochemical mean like pharmacology, immunology, or metabolism. Then this can be called a medical device. Now, if I go to the uniqueness of medical devices, what makes medical device unique? So first thing is the diversity. Anything from a nanorobot to a room size MRI machine, or anything from a software to a very, very physical, solid metal implant, anything is a medical device. Anything can be a medical device if it has a medical purpose. It can be used by a very lay person or a child, like a toothbrush or a dental floss, or it may require a highly sophisticated team to handle it, something like a robotic surgery. So there is a lot of diversity in every aspect of medical device, and that diversity makes medical device unique, different from the drugs. Continuous evolution of the technology also influences continuous development of the medical devices. When I was a child, we all saw that there were the glass syringes with a reusable needle, and the doctor used to put the needle, boil them, and all those things they used to happen in the clinic of the doctor. Now, if we see, there is no glass syringe available anymore. Everywhere we can see there are disposable syringes, use and throw. Because the technology is evolving, the medical devices are evolving, and obviously because of that, the regulations are evolving. So, right from start of the medical device today till the era where there is a medical device having no material, like software, medical device requiring very less intervention, like that of the artificial intelligence based devices, or something that can take its own trajectory to print a 3D printed or bioprinted devices. So this technology is continuously evolving both on the hardware side as well as the software side, material side, and the technology side. Therefore, this continuous evolution makes the devices different. Third is the disparity and disharmonization of regulation. Drug regulations are almost harmonized all over the world, with ICH being in the background. So maximum difference between two regulation comes is just about 10%, 10 to 15%. Not more than 15% changes occur in a medical device, uh, sorry, in a drug regulation, drug, vaccine, or cosmetic, whatever we take. But in medical devices, the harmonization is grossly missing, and we will see at a glance how various regulations they appear, or their flows appear. And the fourth important thing is the discretionary decisions. While on one side we are giving the decisions of medicine to the AI, the discretionary decision by a qualified team on various aspects is still going to be a requirement. That is still going to be a continuous uh, that's still a continuous requirement, and this discretionary effort makes the human workforce inevitable in the medical device field. Obviously there are certain areas which are still better done by artificial intelligence, but there are a few areas where human intervention is mandatory because of the discretionary decision making requirements. So these are certain fundamental differences between the drugs and devices. Regulatory requirements we already spoke, the mode of action we already spoke, the absolute safety data, like it comes from the phase 1 or the BAB trials in drug where healthy individuals receive the drug, that is not possible in case of devices. Therefore, most of the safety data that is generated based upon the combinations and permutations in theory. And because of that, if you see that discretionary effort that we were speaking in the last slide, that becomes extremely important. If I speak of clinical methods, the research question, the research objective, the study design challenges, and the statistical significance and the clinical significance, these are various important and the critical aspects from the clinical perspective in case of medical devices, because here no machine is trained enough to take this kind of decision on behalf of a human, and therefore these are the areas where we definitely require some trained human to take that decision in complex situations where we may not have any sufficient data to automate this kind of decisions. And this is where the drugs differ from devices, because many decisions in drug today have become almost kind of automated. Then the third thing that comes is the organization. If I speak of drug, if one operator or one user, that is the patient himself or herself, takes the medicine, there is only one person who gets affected. But in a medical device, operator is the most important entity. Now, if I speak of an operator, even if I speak of a toothbrush, it requires some level of training before a toothbrush is correctly used. Even use of a spectacle requires requires some level of training before that spectacle is used. And any mistake or negligence by the operator, who can be the patient himself or herself, or who can be a doctor, nurse, technician, anyone like that, or even a caregiver, who can commit a mistake and the effect can be on someone else, that is usually the patient or the patient's attendant or someone, or maybe a completely irrelevant person. And therefore this operator mediated use or skilled requirement of the medical device use makes it extremely unique, again from the drugs perspective. The role of the sales and the field force in drugs, usually you see that the clinical R&D and these, they operate completely in silos, whereas in devices they work together. Then the investigational product accountability and the cost, these are two important aspects which I'm not going to get into details of. Another very important thing that comes is the multiple to multiple relationships. So in a drug, there is one drug, one doctor, one patient. If that relationship changes, probably one drug, multiple doctors, one patient. So if I speak of a clinical trial or a monitoring system that essentially works in the same way, that patient to drug relationship needs to be established in a correct way for every kind of things. But if I speak of device to device relationship, the device relationship can be multiple. There can be one device exposed to multiple user, like that of an X-ray machine or like that of an MRI. It can be used by multiple doctors, multiple technicians. Again, the same example of a machine. One patient can receive multiple devices. So from the start of the morning, we use toothbrush, dental floss, maybe in some cases we are using spectacle. So every one of us is at least using one or two devices without even knowing that. If we consider in a healthcare setup, one patient is using multiple devices or one patient is exposed to multiple devices, right from entry in the clinic where you are sitting on the examination table, which is a medical furniture or a medical device. Stethoscope is a medical device. The torch which is used for examination is a medical device. So all these things are the medical devices where the patient are exposed to. Now, as the complication increases, the number of devices that can run into hundreds. And these all devices, they need to be considered when there is a clinical study or a clinical evaluation or a safety case that comes into the picture. And that's where you can understand these complicated relationships of the medical device with the device, with the patient, with the user, and with the doctor, etc., it becomes complicated, and that makes the device unique from all others. Now, if I speak of medical device regulatory and quality affairs, the top arching, the topmost arch is the device quality assurance, which is majorly driven by ISO 13485 and several other standards, which include the clinical standards like ISO 1415, risk management standards like that of ISO 14971, the implementation standards like ISO 14969, the clinical, the electronics and electrical standard like that of ISO 60603. There may be biocompatibility standard like that of ISO 10993. There are again standards for software like that of 23604. So these are various different type of standards which the medical device may be requiring. Or then again, there are certain vertical standards, like for heart valve, there is a ISO 8053. So these kind of standards, they govern the quality assurance. Unlike in case of drugs, where GMP, GXP kind of regulation, GMP, GCP, GDP, GRP, they are the standards which govern the quality assurance. Now, because of this, there is a global regulation map, which is majorly indicative regulations of IMDRF, the International Medical Device Regulators Forum, which have taken the initiatives like that of MDSAP, that is Medical Device Single Audit Program, and the adoptions of various ISO regulations like that of what I mentioned just now. But there is still a disparity at various levels, and the regulators are not still in sync with each other. If I speak of various national regulations, they start with the difference of the change in the classification itself. So if I speak of the countries like US and India, the classification happens on the federal basis. Whereas if I speak of the countries like that of Europe and Canada and Australia and Mexico, etc., the classification happens on the stakeholder basis. So now these type of differences, they cut across the regulatory requirements. In certain cases, the device regulation becomes more, the device classification becomes more important. In certain cases, controls become more important. In some cases, stakeholder become more important. In some cases, the local representative become more important. And this entire disparity, that makes it very, very discretionary at the level of the user, and they have to use their brain, deliberate on the requirements of various countries when we have to register a device in many countries or in different countries. Now, if I translate this into the actual clinical evidence and regulatory requirements, or clinical and regulatory affairs in medical devices, I can start with the definition of clinical evidence itself. Clinical evidence is a compendium of various available evidence that clearly helps me decide in my clinic what works and what doesn't work, and that can be connected with my daily practice as a clinician, and that can answer my important, common, as well as the clinical questions which my patient may have for me, I may have for my manufacturer, and that should be constructed based upon the transparent methods, and most importantly, they should be updated regularly. Now, in case of drugs, we have pharmacovigilance, which continues to update the clinical evidence once the phase 1, 2, and 3 trials are over, and sometimes if there are phase 4 trials. But in case of devices, the controlled environment in which the clinical investigation is made, that may not remain true after the device goes into the real world. In real world also, because of the difference of the skills of various doctors, various physicians, there will be a continuous difference, and therefore these updates are not just like what happens through the vigilance. There is a need for active regular upgrade of the clinical evidence of the medical device. That's what generates the requirement of talent in case of the clinical evidence. Now, if I speak of the contents of clinical evidence, it is majorly contributed by clinical data and clinical evaluation. These processes are interconnected while data comes from clinical investigation and clinical experience. But in the background, the clinical investigation studies, the clinical registries, feedback, user experience, published literature, and the complaint and adverse device incidents, they feed into both clinical data and clinical evaluation. Finally, we make a clinical evidence. So at a large, if I speak, clinical evaluation report is the most critical documentation at the clinical level or of the clinical module of a medical device. Now, if I speak of the clinical evaluation or the clinical evidence, there are two different stakeholders. In case of drugs, they see from the each other's exact opposite views. So regulator sees from the perspective of safety and goes towards efficacy. Clinician sees from the perspective of efficacy and goes towards safety. But that's not the case in medical devices. In medical devices, the regulators see something different, the clinicians see something different. Their views may not be exactly systematic, their views may be completely disparate from each other. So, if I consider this figure, the right side view shows how the drug and the devices are seen differently by the regulators and by the clinicians. And on the left hand side, the blue figure that clearly shows how disparity acts in case when there is a difference of understanding between clinicians and regulators. For clinicians, there are still various gaps. Even for regulators, there are bits and pieces that they can see. Nothing can be seen in one go. And therefore, a very accurate clinical evaluation report is required, which should come to answer clinicians' questions from the clinical evidence. That is, how does my device or technology work for the clinician? How does my device or technology affect the patients? And how does the device or technology helps in better treatment or diagnosis or both? Now, given this situation, we can see how it differs from the regulator's perspective then, because these are precisely the clinical question which regulators should be asking, but that's not the case. Regulators are asking us for the clinical safety and clinical performance, where clinical safety is majorly driven from the risk realization, which is constituted by the device malfunction, the hazards, the failures, etc. And majorly the device safety, that is the safety of patient with the device, safety of user with the device, safety of doctor with the device, and safety of others with the device. Whereas the clinical performance majorly comes from the clinical effectiveness, where the effectiveness of the device in presence of a disease with various type of environments, and the device performance in case of various patients and users, that constitutes the clinical safety and performance. But this is not the core. The core is typically the data that comes from risk and benefit, and the balance between the risk benefit by the risk benefit analysis, which includes clinical complaints, the design validation, testing, and all other such things which actually constitute the entire risk management report. Whereas if we speak of the clinical data, which is on the other side of it, so risk management is more or less dependent upon the design and various calculations or theoretical considerations. Whereas the clinical data is the practical counterpart of the risk management, because this risk benefit analysis that gets actually validated with the clinical data. So the clinical data can come majorly from the clinical investigation, but in case of devices, the majority of the data actually is produced in the post-marketing phase, either through the post-marketing surveillance or post-marketing clinical evaluation, or in the post-marketing RWE experience kind of data. So the clinical safety is majority of the thing which is actually viewed very critically by the countries which follow IMDRF, which include EU, Canada, Japan, etc., including India. Whereas the clinical effectiveness is the major identification of the federal classification countries like that of US. Now, if I speak of this thing, so clinical evaluation I spoke is one of the thing, but that is not the only clinical evidence. So if I have to look towards the patient-oriented clinical evaluation, or if I have to speak of the patient-oriented documentation, which is primarily patient is in the center, the device, procedure, and user, they are the actual drivers of the patient safety and the device performance in the patient. Whereas the second side is the device safety and performance, where the incident, the condition, and the exposure are the three major drivers of the device safety and performance. Whereas the third point of view for which I need to create the evidence is the procedure. So in procedure, the issue, the effect, and the use, they actually determine the risk and benefits of the procedure. So therefore, the documents like PSUR, which is patient oriented, the material vigilance report, which is human user oriented, it can be doctor, it can be technician, it can be nurse, it can be the caregiver, it can be the patient himself or herself, it can be any other user who may not be relevant at all. If you remember the incident of patient's visitor getting sucked into the MRI machine because of carrying the oxygen cylinder, so we know what happened there, right? So therefore, this material vigilance report is a human-centric report. Clinical evaluation report is a device-centric report, which is device design and function oriented, whereas SSCP, safety or summary of clinical, summary of safety and clinical performance, this is of the device in clinic. So device in use versus device in clinic. Then the risk management report is majorly oriented around the procedure, which speaks of the risk and benefit of the procedure of use, whereas public health threat analysis and the health hazard analysis, these are the reports which are majorly about the procedure, about the epidemiology, about the disease condition in which the device is used. Now, given these all things put together, this can form a complex situation of this clinical evidence, and they all need to be interoperative. They need to talk to each other. These all documents, they need to be work together, and that's where multiple efforts of artificial intelligence writing these documents have failed in the past, because there is a lot of complex decision that needs to be taken with the human eye on it, with the human eye on everything. So those who are claiming to automate, say, clinical evaluation report, they may reach up to 30-35%. But today, even despite all the data available, the entire automation of this documentation has not been possible. This is the critical point in that. And now, if I consider these major expressions working together, it still doesn't answer the question that how much data should I produce, or how much data do I need to produce for the regulators and clinicians' satisfaction about my devices, safety, and performance. Therefore, we still need the logical principles to address this issue. So the first logical principle is the focus on definition of success. So there is a definition of study success in case of clinical investigation, and the definition of device success in case of its clinical use. These two things, they need to be correctly blended together based upon essential principles to clinical practice, which is from regulation to the real world. And then that should be seen on the basis, where do I succeed? So in case if you success in phase 1, you go to phase 2, then you go to phase 3, then you go to phase 4. Wherever you fail, you stop. In devices, the things is exactly the opposite. Wherever you succeed, you stop. Wherever you fail, you have to go to the next step. So in your pilot, if you are able to generate sufficient data of safety and performance of the device, you may continue with that device. This is because the device has been extensively tested on the machines or in the simulation environment before it is put to the market. or before it is put to the human use. And therefore, wherever we generate the first data of the safety and performance of the device through these all the 7 types of documents that we spoke in the previous slides, there precisely we stop. Now, the third principle is a statistical principle where we have to do a test for sufficiency, and this test for sufficiency needs to be included in the clinical evidence report or clinical evaluation report, whatever we call it. And then based upon this significance, the acceptance happens through a group of people, and then they come to the conclusion whether that number is sufficient, and whether based upon various statistical complexities, whether that is a sufficient number which has already been generated, or which has for which the data is already available. Now, based upon that, if we this is one of the scoring systems, we can deploy multiple different types of scoring systems. Depending upon this, we can utilize the post hoc power calculation and satisfy the regulators that okay, we have done this all analysis statistically and the clinically this data looks to be sufficient for the clinical evaluation. Now, after we do all this exercise, this is the process of clinical evaluation, where the data collection, analysis, data representation and reporting, and data democratization, this is the foundational cycle. Whereas validity of data, the data matrix, the data accessibility, and the data gap analysis, this is the application cycle. Based upon simultaneous running of this cycle, we determine the safety and clinical performance of the device, which is eventually distributed among these all documents from the different perspective. Like in PSCR, it will go from the patient perspective. In CR, it will go from the device perspective. In the risk management report, it will go from the procedure, device, and patient perspective. So that way, this document will be completed. And the majority of it is actually brought in by something called clinical experience. So clinical experience has 2 types: documented clinical experience and undocumented clinical experience. The user feedback, the doctor's product evaluation, registries, surveillance programs, market research, they are our documented evidence, whereas the electronic health records, non-participative RWE studies, the precompiled data sets, the vigilance and publications based data, or the post-marketing surveillances, they are the undocumented clinical experience. A conglomerate of all these things put together, that becomes a clinical evidence that eventually goes into our clinical data sets. Now, all these things that are presented to the regulatory bodies, and the regulatory bodies then take their own decision. So, for example, European Union, they have their MDCG guidelines, mainly the MDCG 2025 and 2024-10. These are the 2 main guidelines. Along with the EU MDR, they will look to multiple type of things. Whereas Australia, they will have their own guidance document. Canada will have their own guidance document, and they will look to the clinical evidence report. The IMDRF has given an overarching clinical evidence, a clinical evidence infrastructure, or I'll say clinical evidence guidance, which is accepted by most of the countries. But then there are countries like Japan and US, or even India for that sake, they still require the summary of safety and clinical performance. And for every single case, or in every single incident that is reported, they want you to perform the clinical analysis of health hazard evaluation, that with this change, how has your health hazard evaluation changed? Do you think that it is going to change the more amount of population adversely? So given all these things, the regulatory disparity continues to occur. And this is where you can see there are various regulatory flowcharts for the marketing authorizations in various countries. And you see a lot of difference in the flowcharts. You can see that some flowcharts are multi-steps, some flowcharts are simple, some flowcharts are based upon the classification. Some flowcharts are just simply decision trees. So there is a lot of disparity in these regulations as well. And therefore, this all put together that creates a kind of talent gap. If I work on what actually creates a talent gap, we can go to some mystic mystic characters. The Pandora's box. All regulations that happen in the Pandora's box. Substantial equivalence acts almost like a holy grail. If I speak of, sorry, I don't know what's happening with the animation. I'll have to probably go back to the slide. I'll start with again. So I spoke about Pandora's box. If we start with working with the regulations, it's like the Pandora's box. You start opening it and it will keep opening, 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 and opening. It is never ending phenomena. If I speak of substantial equivalence base, that is a holy grail. It's very difficult to get there. The armor of Achilles is the clinical evaluation of the disease, whereas the statistics is your Trojan horse. These two entities, they are going to help you everywhere. And state of the art or the device standardization, that is almost like a rabbit hole. You keep going inside, and if you keep identifying the Alice in Wonderland. Now, if I speak of regulations, there are many different regulations. Even one part of it I'm taking is clinical evaluation, you can cite the entire plethora of clinical evaluation guidelines which don't talk to each other in most of the cases, and therefore there is a lot of human heavy work that needs to be done. On top of it, there are certain requirements that who should perform clinical evaluation. Obviously, if clinical evaluation, which is a basic process, requires certain kind of talent or certain kind of training, there is obviously a requirement of similar type of qualifications, even in case of the even in case of the clinical investigation, clinical experience, etc., even material vigilance for that sake. So the qualifications as per the MedDev 2.7.1, there are requirement of degrees in life sciences, biomedical engineering, etc. Whereas there is a requirement of skill and understanding in medical writing and anatomy and physiology. And earlier there was a requirement of author should have 10 years of experience and reviewer should have relative experience of clinical use. But now those things are bit relaxed because uh, getting this kind of qualification was becoming impossible even in the European market. But given all these things, that opens various avenues of clinical and regulatory careers for all of us. So if I speak of regulatory affairs, there are production related regulatory affairs where there is the requirement of marketing authorization, test license in India. Similarly, there is IDA license in Europe. There is a IDA license in US. There is a Section 5 license in Canada. Or there are so many different regulations of this kind which require the regulatory licensing for production level, manufacturing license. Apart from that, if I want to take my product into the market globally, there is a requirement of product authorization or the product registration into various geography. And on top of that, every state of United States, every state of Canada, all the countries in the European Union, they require a separate registration for the reimbursement code, like what we have the Jan Dhan Yojana, where we need to be registered on board of that, or CGHS scheme used to be there, where we need to be registered on panel of that CGHS scheme. Similarly, there are these reimbursement codes where someone needs to be empaneled with those reimbursement codes to sell your product in that market. So you may be authorized to sell, but you are not able to sell because of lack of reimbursement code. So that entire thing follows under the regulatory affairs of market access or market authorization. Other than that, there are quality assurance roles like documentation, quality procedures, the production management, including QC and inward check, outward check, etc. Audit management system and actual conduct of the audit. In the material vigilance, that is similar to the pharmacovigilance for drugs, material vigilance is for device. There are the requirements of product complaint management and complaint investigation on the regulatory side. If I speak on the clinical side, the roles like that of evaluation medical writer, clinical scientists, clinical evaluators, the data managers, biostatistics and stats programmers, the clinical operations people, which need to be on site, which need to be in the office, who need to be doing document management, manage the trial master file, manage the sites, manage ethics committees, ethical conduct of the studies, ISO 14155 compliances. So all these things, they will come into the clinical operations. Whereas core laboratory is one of the most frequent regulation requirements in a medical device study, because most of the disparity that can also happen at the user level, we need to produce the standard reports from the core laboratory kind of third party. So that is also one of the required areas. Whereas all the things that we spoke in the previous slide about the complaint management, or what we spoke about the public health threat analysis and PSUR, those are all the part of medical side of the material vigilance. There is also a good amount of career opportunity existing for all. So with this, I take a pause and I open the floor back to the audience with help of Vinayak and his team.
Thank you, Ashish sir.
Dr. Ashish, would you like to share that brochure, the program brochure? I'll talk.
Oh yes, sorry. Vinayak, can you bring the product brochure, that training brochure on the screen? Probably that's on my WhatsApp. I don't have it here. Thanks for reminding me, Kamalji, because I was supposed to use that as my last slide. That's an exciting program for all of you that we have curated along with the Life Sciences Sector Skill Development Council, CliniMinds, and myself. So this program is going to be extremely useful for the aspirants in the medical device area. Those who are already in medical device area also, they know that there have been a lot of change in last 5 years. So for them also, it's going to be an important area where we actually get the newer regulations, we understand about the newer procedures that are happening, we utilize the new resources which are available. On top of that, there is now with artificial intelligence and software as medical device and all these things, there is a requirement of several other things. And because of that, this course is going to be extremely useful for all the people who are aspirants of this course. Uh, yes. So we can see this course. Can we scroll it? Vinayak, can we scroll this? Yeah. So here you can see that what it covers. It pretty much covers everything from the quality assurance till the medical device softwares and in vitro diagnosis, combination products, including some important part of diversity that is called human factors and usability engineering. So it is going to cover that all. At the end of this, there is going to be a project and an internship, so that we just do not teach you theory, we also give you some practical exposure on certain things. And this is going to be hosted on the learning management system of CliniMinds, where you will be able to access the entire book that Kabalji was mentioning some time ago, which has an end-to-end understanding of everything. If we speak of this course as an outline, this has total 7 modules. Uh, the basics of medical devices, that's going to be a mandatory initial module. Then there is quality management system, the regulatory affairs, the product quality management, risk management, and material vigilance, clinical evidence, and design principles. These are the 6 theory modules, and the 7th module, as I said, was a project and the internship. So these are the 7 basic modules that we are going to cover in this. This brochure is available in the public, so you can go in through the details of this. Vinayak, you can keep scrolling now so that we can show what is there. So in this, there are a lot of details available which you can go through and you can understand what we all are covering in this. And at the end, we can scroll quickly towards the end. this is going to have some examination, and the certification will be a joint certification of Cliniminds and LSSDC. So I request you to go through these all things, and because there are the limited seats in the first batch, probably you guys can try registering for it as quickly as possible. Kamalji, maybe you can add to certain things in this.
Yes, Dr. Ashish, thanks a lot. Thank you. The program is actually certified by the Life Sciences Sector Skill Development Council, which is part of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. The program is also accredited with the global agency called CPD, Continuing Professional Development Program body, UK-based body. So it's a globally accredited program, and in India is, of course, very prestigious body, LSSDC. The advantage of this program is that it will be taught by the top experts from the industry. All the leading medical device professionals, your trainers would come from the various Indian and multinational companies who will be teaching this program, with the lead faculty, Dr. Ashish, who I've already, shared with you his profile. We plan to launch this program in January. This is the tentative date of the program is 18th, Sunday, 18th January. The program would be on weekends, both Saturdays and Sundays, and duration of this program is 11 months. A slightly longer program than the traditional Cliniminds 6 months program, but the modules, every module will take close to about 1.5 to 2 months. Hence, the program is of 11 months duration, so that participants can benefit immensely from this. And the end of the program, there is a placement support available, which will be, on the keeping in view the candidates profile. We will be sharing your CVs with the relevant companies, and we'll arrange the interviews for the participants of this program. However, some participants who are already coming from the medical device sector, they may have a limited placement support, but at the end of the day, they'll benefit immensely. What we have brought in this program is very, very recent, what is globally happening. The program took us almost 3 years to devise, because we went back to industry. We had extensive discussion with all major stakeholders, that includes regulators, the industry associations, the Life Sciences Sector Skill Development Council, and the other bodies, and of course, all the medical device companies. We had extensive discussion on what we should be covering in this program. So very, very good quality, program, and we'll share with you the details after this webinar. But now, I open the floor for questions, please. I think the link has also been provided in the chat, so you can download. But please feel free to ask questions. Yes, Akash, I can see your raised hand. Akash.
Akash, are you on mute?
Yeah, I think, am I audible actually?
Yes,
Dr.
Akash, you
Ashish?
are.
Yes, yes.
So first of all, I would like to really thank you guys. Like it was a really informative seminar, and I think you guys have covered the really basics which should be cleared if someone is on this field. So my question is as the landscape is changing in this particular this sector, many of quality professionals are getting in the field that they are also somewhere starting something to reach that particular skill gap as you was mentioning. They are starting their programs and all. So how this should be regulated, because I think teaching something which directly correlates to the patient safety and definitely the user safety as well. So what's your point of view? And my question is to Dr. Abhijit sir. I mean Dr. Ashish sir.
Yeah. So, Akash, that's a very good question. And if you ask me, that everyone is starting their own course, or everyone is starting to you know claim that they are filling the quality gaps, etc. And I won't say that there are no efforts going on around this. There are efforts going on around this. Not all the claims are the false claim also. There are industry experts who have put their efforts in identifying those gaps and making certain things. But one thing that I would like to tell here, or one thing that I would like to mention here, is practically, if I speak of the quality requirements of medical devices, they are not just the quality management system requirements. So if I speak of the drugs, there are comprehensive quality requirements available through the ICH Q standards, right? So there are standards which are Q side standards. So in ICH, there are efficacy, quality, uh, and those two more, safety and production or manufacturing. There are the four standards, four sets of standards that are very expressive, very expensive, given by ICH. In case of drugs, that is not possible because the manufacturer needs to decide what has to happen on the ground, what standards suit them. So while there are standards from BIS, while there are standards from ISO, while there are standards from ASTM, not one person can become expert of everything in medical devices. And that's precisely where the challenge is. So when you are engaging with any quality assurance person, you need to understand the technical ability of that person in helping your product. So that's the first litmus test that we need to do. Someone who has worked like me in the implantable devices for lifelong is suddenly put to evaluation of, say, uh, an a automated blood counter. Now, automated blood counter, I understand from a medical education, but not from the device perspective. I won't understand its device engineering until I read through the entire document and I understand how it is used on the ground. Right. So, as I said, the diversity of devices itself is the most important challenge, which we need to keep in mind when we are also looking towards quality perspective, and when we are looking towards the people who are offering the quality gap management, etc. uh, I won't comment on a lot of things on the personal side for anyone, but that is in general the principle that before we engage with any auditor, any quality system, any quality assurance trainer, etc., we have to first check the compatibility and competency of those people for the product range that you have. Right? Did I answer your question?
It was like to the point, as you have mentioned. I think that's clears my doubt. And I would like to say one more thing as well. Really sorry, I know this is not might be the perfect moment to say this, but I wanna take a second just to appreciate clinical minds in today's time. Like a lot of people just really going and using AI to creating courses and all, but I think like learning about medical devices, it should be from critical sources. So I think, yeah, clinical, I think it's a really great initiative from this organization.
Thanks, Akash.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else have questions? Yes, Sonu. Yes, Sonu. Sonu Bharat. Yeah. Sonu, yeah, you can unmute and speak, please. I think you need to unmute, Sonu. Yeah. Now you can speak.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, Sonu. Yes.
Yes.
I am audible.
Yes, Sonu.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashish sir and Kamal sir. Sir, first of all, sir, I am the graduate in pharmacy, and I have some questions regarding my career. And sir, one first question is, sir, if I started my career as a medical device specialist in complaint handling as an entry level, sir, and my first question is, can I got good positions and good scope in the future? Hello, sir.
Okay. Yes, yes. So, okay, so now let me answer
Hello,
this
sir.
question in this
Uh,
way. Yeah. Let me answer this question in this way. So, daily, if we see, I can see the introduction of at least 10 new devices every hour in the system. So at the end of every year, we have approximately 7,000 to 8,000 new devices getting into the market. Maybe approximately half of those also getting off the market because of the change of technology and becoming redundant or like irrelevant. Now, when it comes to a new technology, obviously the complaints are going to be higher in number. So, when it comes to complaints, the pharmacovigilance has a very straightforward process, which is right from evaluation, so from intake triaging to next level. There are very few steps, and which are very, very formative steps where we have to go by it. But now, depending upon the device type, depending upon the device severity and the classification, the regulatory classification, and the risk management analysis that has already been done, there is a lot of human work which is still required in this area. So, while certain parts are getting automated with artificial intelligence and with the agentic solution, etc., but still, there is a lot of things that is still required in case of the medical device complaint management, and therefore material vigilance is definitely one of the bigger areas in general to make your career. Second side of it is that now with ISO 14971 latest edition, PSCR has picked up like a very important documentation, and that is made mandatory by the EU MDR. Therefore, PSCR, which is a safety or material vigilance document, that is the complaint handling document, I'll say in a way, that has also become a mandatory document. And obviously, these processes are currently just primitive. In next 10 to 20 years, these processes are going to be even more extensive. And as the device keep on adding on a daily basis, there is a requirement going to be for this career, definitely a lot. So, career in medical device complaint handling or product quality complaint management is what we call it, or material vigilance that may be called alternatively. This definitely has a very good career. But for that, it is very important that you need to understand the process correctly. You need to understand both the technology and medical application of that technology correctly. Otherwise, like most of the people in pharmacovigilance always remain the data entry operator despite spending 10 years there. That would be your situation, and that may be taken over by machines soon. So be aggressive on learning, learn the things in details, understand the technology, understand the process, get to the basics and do it yourself. This is the mantra of being successful in your career.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. There's another question here, Dr. Ashish. What about the research perspective, majorly in upstream and downstream processes of the devices? For example, blood sugar test kit or ELISA test kit properly in the medical test devices. Shall we start our career in researching on that too? What are the area of scope? And thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So whoever asked that question is
Krishna Dev.
yeah, Krishna. So I will say that this is a very relevant question in today's date because technology is so rapidly changing and it is changing hydra headed. So at some point in time where ELISA used to be one of the niche tests, today it has become very common test. Like anyone can go and perform an ELISA. But then there are still a lot of things. Like I am also a pioneer in sensors based diagnostics. In sensor based diagnostics, there is a lot of scope even today. You spoke about glucometers, which is a point point of care diagnostics. So we are also speaking of the diagnostics which is based upon the breath control, the non-invasive diagnostics. We are speaking of a lot of diagnostic technologies in all sides. So if we speak of the upstream report, that is actual utilization of the technology in various different applications. Like if I have a point of care device, can I utilize it for all other conditions also? Or if I have a ELISA kind of definitive testing, can I utilize it to more and more applications? And the downstream uh, research of that. So downstream research that will majorly give you an understanding of what could go wrong and gone wrong, what could go right and gone right, and how it can be improved. So if there was a failure in diagnosis by ELISA, what has really gone wrong? So those kind of researches, they are definitely required. Other than that, I will tell you one very important niche area, or I'll not say niche, a very wide area which is coming up is the combination of the traditional devices with the computer systems, or combination of the current the traditional devices with the software and artificial intelligence technology. The combination of these two is going to be the killer's combination, and the diagnosis is going to be highly accurate, extremely precise, and also going to be early. So this is definitely one of the areas, the research and development in uh, diagnostics and the diagnostic solutions and these technologies that lead diagnostic, that is going to be very helpful for the industry and for the society, and obviously for your careers.
Yeah, Anushka, you want to continue your question? You want to speak? You can unmute Anushka and speak.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Sir, so that you are saying that AI is the new tool for the medical devices? That's what you mean?
I didn't say AI is the new tool for medical devices, but you cannot shy out from using artificial intelligence in your medical technology. It is a technology, and if not today, tomorrow it's going to be entirely integrated. So it's always better to accept it now and go ahead integrating this combination of the traditional technology and the artificial intelligence. So these two things put together, they are going to make the healthcare more precise and the diagnosis earlier and more precise. There may be a range right from screening to definitive diagnosis, everywhere the technology and AI that will be used in different proportions. And if that happens, you will require a lot of research to identify what is just at the level of screening or versus what is highly precise diagnosis. And that gives you a bright career in the diagnostic research and development. If I want to frame it differently, if you know ELISA and artificial intelligence, you are the hero. But if you know only artificial intelligence, not ELISA, you are in imaginary world. And if you know only ELISA and not artificial intelligence, you are still in the past. Okay. So you have to understand both these things very well so that you will be able to bring in artificial intelligence in the diagnostics really well.
I'll just, Dr. Ashish, I'll take a liberty to add a point here. Because if you do not add the AI today, then you are not entering into the future. And, in a large country, let's take an example of a large country like India, where you need diagnostics right into the villages, deep villages of India. And if you're dependent on the very high end, workforce, who carry the devices, who conduct the diagnosis there at the village level, it will take a lot of investment. But if you have the smart device, like, let's say you want to collect the hemoglobin level across India of people. And today, with the advent of new devices, you can carry the device. Normal ASHA worker can actually, or a normal person with a minimum skill can take this device to villages, get the data, connect it with the larger server, data comes into the mainframe, and then you can analyze the data. So your cost will come down and your reach with the help of this technology will increase. So we are today, it's not just the uh, cost, but we are also looking at the increasing the reach to the country in the country like India.
Sir, do we have the that bioinformatics things for us so that we can access the health and the all those things of a patient get into right in front of a screen so that it will help us to communicate with the doctors or the physicians at the same time.
It's happening.
So
It's happening. It's currently happening in a lot of, lot of
yeah, but
diagnostic
all
devices
those
that
things
is
are
happening.
majorly in the major cities only, not in the
No,
rural
no,
areas.
I can share. I cannot. There are certain client commitments and the confidentiality. We are working in a program where there is a large collection of data happening in diabetic retinopathy at a rural level, and this is technology reaching to people. So yes, in the coming days, you will see this more and more.
Okay, sir, I want to get connected with you, so please let me know whether I can connect you via WhatsApp or
Yeah,
in
you
your
can
email. Yeah.
leave your number with the name, and my colleague
Mhm.
Vinayak will share with me, and we will connect. And what
Yeah,
is your
sure.
background, Anush? What do you do, Anush?
Yeah, sorry, so my name is Dr. Sankit Banerjee, and I'm from Jabalpur, MP,
Okay,
and I'm a BDS graduate doctor.
okay. You're currently working in medical device sector.
Yes, sir. I started my clinical research in medical medicine and the medical devices.
Okay, very nice. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Great.
The
Thank you. Thank
Sonu,
you, sir.
Sonu Barad, your second part of the question, can I get good future growth comparing to? Yes, Sonu, I think if you stick to the sector, number one, and as Dr. Ashish said, learn new skills. I think the sector is changing rapidly, very, very fast. I mean, changes are happening on the everyday basis now. So please upgrade the skill set in medical devices and you will have a great career. Yes, Srivani.
Yeah. I would like to add that one thing to that, Sonu, that currently there is a flood of people who have been working in pharma and claiming themselves to be experts of medical devices. This is happening everywhere. We see that day in and day out. But there is a paradigm difference between the drugs and medical devices. I have been working in medical devices for the last 25 years. And based upon that, I understand that this is a completely different science. So you should not confuse yourself between drugs and device. While these both sciences are equally important, give both of them equal importance while you are developing your skills also. Once you decide which way you want to go, if you want to go medical device side, then learn the skills which are medical device specific. Okay, don't get carried away by the drug related skills. Okay.
Uh,
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Akash has asked, Srivani, you want to ask a question, please? Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I
Yes, good
completed my
afternoon.
MSc Statistics and I'm currently working in testing in software field. So I'm really excited to in this program. Can I switch as a biostatistician or data management, sir?
So, Srivani, biostatistics is definitely one of the biggest requirement in all kind of research work. So we always call statistics is a heart, and good that you are a statistician. But I'll tell you what is currently the problem. The current problem is the statistician will understand statistics, but they will neither understand the medical device research methodology. They will understand the uh, clinical requirements of a particular device or a particular study. So what I suggest you, if you are already a statistician, now try to apply your skills and try to learn new skills which are particularly for the clinical, so biostatistics. Basically start understanding biostatistics, what kind of demographics or what kind of outcomes are required to be reported, what are the various types of requirements. So if you see on one of my slides, I showed the hypothesis which is required for clinical evidence. So there are so many device specific requirements which are going to be extremely important from the device regulatory as well as clinical perspective. So you should learn that, and after learning that, there is a sky is the limit for you, because now particularly the device software, India is becoming the hub of medical device software and the software as medical device. So in both these cases, you you will be one of the assets if you have an understanding of everything, right? S- The key is, if you remember at the start of it, I said the key is that you understand technology and domain, that is technology and medicine both together. And in your case, understanding the technology and medicine, and you already have your statistics as a pre-developed skill, or statistics as an existing skill. So if you put this thing both together and add that the statistics as a z-axis to it, you have definitely a bright career. Statisticians are the very rare species in this entire value chain. Trust me.
Thanks, Dr. Ishi. We have a next one, Varsha Madhav. Varsha, please unmute and speak.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to ask if it is necessary to have engineering background to enter into medical devices. Currently, I have a pharmacy background. I have regulatory experience,
Yeah.
and if I want to be part of regulatory affairs related to medical devices, I see increasingly that number of vacancies ask for engineering background. So I'm really considering as to how much of the engineering background is really necessary. And if I clear something like RAPS, RSE, medical devices certificate or something, then would it be simpler for me to be part of this medical devices regulatory affairs as well?
Yeah. So, Varsha, I'll answer this question in two ways. So, there is a bit of selection bias when the medical device companies select engineers for this kind of processes. The entire reason of that being the leadership is engineer and they are biased towards that qualification. It is not a necessary, it is not a requirement, but yeah, there is some level of bias. Now, if I speak of the regulatory requirements, so if you are from drug regulatory affairs, you need to unlearn certain things and you need to relearn certain things. The most important thing to unlearn is how the drugs work. The drug work on pharmacology basis, the classifications are different, regulations are different. Everything in regulatory of the drug is different from the regulatory of medical devices. Everything in the quality management of the drug is different from the quality management of devices. Therefore, if you want to enter into the regulatory field for devices, medical devices, you have to first choose whether you want to go for medical devices or diagnostic. If you are not clear, at least make yourself aware of one of these two things, or both of these two things, and then start making like this course could be actually very good for you, because then you are making yourself aware of the technology. Currently, coming from the pharma background, being in the drug regulatory affairs, you are more skilled towards the regulatory affairs of the drugs. If you need to go into devices, you have to first make yourself aware of the technology, which is the second side of the value chain in medical devices. Then you have to make yourself aware of the medical device regulatory, and then you become fit for this area. I'll give you one simple example. When it comes to a design document review, when we give it to someone who comes from the pharma graduate, they start finding, okay, this had dichloromethane as the solvent for coating. Did we do a test to identify whether there is any amount of dichloromethane remaining on the device? Now tell me, dichloromethane is a completely volatile material. After you heat that device and desiccate that device, how can there be any dichloromethane remaining on the product? While there is more critical thing, like while there is an allergen like nickel in the nickel in the product, while there is a sharp cutting edge which is present on the product, while there is a kind of expansion and deflation of some kind of device is there. So there are certain moving parts in the product. Anything of that going fail could have failed the entire product. But coming from the drug regulatory background, the person only identified what is related with the chemistry. And these are commonly the challenges for which the medical device companies do not want to include the people from pharmacy or other backgrounds into their regulatory affairs teams, because these challenges are the real challenges. Okay, but they cannot, not that they cannot be overcome. You can always overcome them by learning and unlearning and relearning.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. I think that's about it. We have no more questions. If anyone, yes, there is one last one. I'm a biomedical engineer and have 10 years of experience in hospitals and industry. How will this course be helpful? Archana, this is Archana, Dr. Ashish. She's a biomedical engineer with 10 years experience in hospitals and industry. How this course will help her actually.
Archana, so if you are from hospital, you definitely have an exposure to the direct use side of it. But if you are in the industry, I'm not sure really uh, what kind of function are you looking after in the current situation. But are you really aware? So let me ask this question to you, which you can answer to yourself. If I give you 10 devices to classify them into a regulatory classification like US classification and India classification, or the European classification and US classification, would you be actually able to classify these devices? If you are able to classify these devices, will you be able to identify the risks, the function, the failure modes, the effect analysis, the clinical requirements of these devices? If you are into regulatory, will you be able to compile all these things and make an executive summary for the submission of such device into the regulatory body's office? If you are into the actual use of it, would you be able to uh, do the final analysis of the gaps and identify what is the human factor effects on the actual utilization of device? So these are various aspects of the medical device course which will enhance your biomedical engineering skills and which will make you more relevant for the more relevant to play your leadership role in the industry. So that's where I see this course adding a value for you.
Right. So I think we have, and someone has asked, Ajay has asked, tell us about this course. Ajay, I think you've joined just now. This is going to be 11 months, weekend program, Saturday and Sunday classes. This will cover all the topics. Vinayak, could you scroll up a little bit, please? And so this will cover 6 modules of basics of medical devices, quality management system. It will cover the medical device regulatory, risk management, PQCM, material vigilance, clinical evidence of medical devices, design principles and human factors. So this covers complete from a technology perspective, quality, regulations, clinical evaluation. It's an end-to-end program. This is perhaps the only program that comprehensive with 11 months duration taught by the experts from the industry who come with a lot of years of experience. The program will have four sets of textbooks available online, so you can go through those textbooks as well. Then at the end there will be a sort of a project or the assignment given to the participants, so program becomes more exciting, more industry oriented. We also intend to bring in, for the future entrepreneurs, we plan to bring in the people from the startup domain so that they can talk about the startups, raising capital. So all those very exciting things what you hear today are all the part of this program, Ajay. But we'll be sharing with you, if you can share your email ID with Vinayak in this window, we will share the brochure with you shortly. And yeah. And I think there was a next question. Saad was asking, Saad Sheikh.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Ashish. Can you tell us, as auto evaluation technologies are already being implemented, could AI eventually take over the entire complaint handling process of medical device, and will human oversight remain essential still? Could you
See,
highlight some few points about?
yeah. Even in the most hypothetical situation where the AI becomes extremely intelligent and can take all decisions based upon the human intelligence, still regulators are not going to accept it. So the simple question is AI will never be replacing human because regulators will never accept it. Now, coming towards the realistic situation. The realistic situation is the decisions are not unifactorial, the decisions are complex. So, whenever there is a lot of data available and whenever there is the intelligence available from the existing data, there the artificial intelligence can take the informed decision. But whenever the data is novel, when there is no data of that kind available, then the decisions of any kind are not accurate at the level of artificial intelligence. So, for example, if you currently go and ask today, who is Ashish Shindani, probably because of my social media and media presence and all these things, you will get some information about me which is available in the public domain. But if you go and ask the social media, what color does Dr. Ashish Shindani like? It will not be able to give you the answer because that information is not a publicly available information or that information is not driven by any data, right? So, given this situation, these are precisely the differences where the human intervention will always be required. Whenever there is a new type of combination, whenever there is a new type of event coming up into the device material vigilance program, human intelligence will definitely be required. Now, if I ask that question, what is the novelty? Novelty can lie in three aspects. One is the novelty of an event, because that event itself may be new. There may be a novelty of the device and the technology because that is continuously evolving. And then there can be a novelty in the combination. It may be existing device, existing event, but new in the situation. So, for example, a toothbrush is an existing device and gum bleeding is an existing device. But toothbrush causing a paroxysmal the gum bleeding. This is a new situation. Gum bleeding because of injury just after brushing is a common event. But if it is a paroxysmal gum bleeding because of a toothbrush, that's a new situation. Okay. Second example I can give you. Spectacle is a known problem, a known device or known technology, and headache because of spectacle is a known technology. Now, if someone has an eye congestion after using a spectacle, that's a new problem. Or someone having a congestive headache with a nosebleed after wearing a spectacle, that's a new combination. Now, given this combination, there will be a lot of requirement of investigation from the medical perspective. This the AI will never be able to do. AI can give you the possible causes, but it will not be able to reach the definitive answer. And these kind of things will continue happening over next few years, and therefore material vigilance, at least for next 25 years, cannot be completely overtaken from the regulatory as well as the technological perspective by the AI.
Thanks, Dr. Ashish. I think we'll take perhaps one last. And there are a couple of questions, career opportunities after this and salaries. We'll share this information, Ajay, on the brochure. If you share your email ID, Srikant, we'll share the course fee information shortly. Regarding, I think Akash is excited to know what do you mean by if you know AI, sir? Do you mean know how to use AI or knowing how to build AI? Akash, do you want to speak on this question? Your sort of a language is slightly mixed up, so you want to ask perhaps this question on AI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll start answering this question because this is a very interesting and expected question. So, Akash, AI is now built by AI. So, it is like you need to understand the application of AI and the application of technology to the human. So, you are not an engineer, I suppose. So, unless you are an engineer, you are not supposed to build AI. You are supposed to give the right direction for someone who can build AI for you. So, as I said, it's an intersection between between two fields. One is medicine, second is AI. If you know medicine well and you understand how AI should work or how you want AI to work, then that is your medicine side of understanding of AI, which you can give to the AI person. The AI person will not be able to comprehend the medical terms as you do because of your medical or pharmacy background. And that is where, if you know, if the engineer who understands the medicine through you and you understanding AI through the engineer, if you two work together, you are going to be a killer's combination. But before that, you need to understand how does AI work, how to train AI, how to utilize AI, how to utilize AI to your requirement or your application. And when it comes to building, at least you should be able to build good prompts because generative AI is the talk of the town today. And that's going to be at least for next 4 5 years, that is going to be. So you should be able to understand how to give the right prompt. And eventually, the last but not the least is how to regulate the AI, because AI is autocratic. You have to control that AI if it is required to be used in the medical environment. So that's where how to control and regulate AI. So if you understand this, then you are going to be you are going to master the field.
Thanks, Dr. Ashish. A couple of short ones here. No, you will not get the sort of for this webinar, you won't get any certificate. This was just the awareness webinar on the medical devices industry, what's happening, what are the technologies currently. Uh, so we would, I think we have covered all the questions, Dr. Ashish. Thank you so much for your time today over the weekend. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank all our sponsors, our partners, Life Sciences Sector Skill Development Council, CPD UK, all our faculties, and especially Dr. Ashish today for taking out time on Sunday to do this webinar. Thank you all participants. In fact, big thank you for coming in big numbers and attending this webinar. I'll be happy to share more information over the emails. You can download the brochure from the website. And shortly we will be, getting together once more to, bring in more exciting topics from the medical devices domain in the next few months. So it's going to be constant process now. So all the best, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Doctor.